Alright, well here we are, still in Hong Kong Airport, as you can hear maybe from the announcements in the background, and I am now on video number 4. Now I kind of thought that as I was making these videos, people would look at me strangely and start disappearing from the immediate area, but if anything, there are more people around, which means maybe they want to learn about derivatives too. You should be thankful that I am teaching you derivatives, young man, because people want to learn and they're just kind of hanging out, they're listening. Okay, maybe they're not. But anyway, let's go ahead. Let's work another question. Find the coordinates of the points where the tangent to y equals x cubed plus x plus 2 at 1, 4 meets the curve again. What? Okay, so we've got a cubic function. We know what a cubic function looks like. A cubic function looks like this. Okay, now obviously that's not perfect. It's actually rather horrible. It shouldn't be vertical like that, but anyway, it doesn't matter. Okay, so the tangent to this at 1, 4. So at some point, I'm going to have 1, 4. Okay, now I don't really know where that is, but let's just pretend that it's here. Okay, so the tangent is going to go like this, and then what's going to happen? At some point, it's going to cross the graph again. So that's what the question is asking. It wants me to find this tangent line, the tangent line that goes through 1, 4, and then tell it where it crosses again. Okay, so first things first, let's write an equation. All right, so if I want the equation of the tangent line, of course, I'm going to need to do some derivatives. So let's do some derivatization. So I'm going to do y prime equals 3x squared. Derivative of x is simply 1. The derivative of the constant goes away. So I've got my derivative here. I can now put the x value in to find out what the slope is at that point. So y prime equals 3 times 1 squared plus 1. And I've got y prime equals 3 plus 1, which is then 4. So the slope at this point is 4. Okay, so now I've got that. Let's go ahead and look at the next piece then, which means that I now need to write the equation for this line here. Okay, I've got a point, I've got the slope, which means I can now write an equation in point-slope form. So I'm going to go y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Of course, the point will be 1, 4, so y minus 4 equals the slope. The slope was 4 times x minus x1, which is the x value for my point there. I now have an equation. This will be easier to work with if I do solve for y. So I'm going to go ahead and do y minus 4 equals distribute 4x minus 4, add the 4 to the other side, and end up with y equals, well, that's nice. They don't even give me a y-intercept. It's going to be 0. That'll be nice and easy when I have to do some solving later. So then I add the 4 to both sides, and all I got is that y equals 4x. So what this is now is this is the equation of that tangent line. So now the question wants me to tell it when it's going to meet the curve again. So how do I find when it meets the curve again? Well, how do you usually find an intersection? We did it in the last video, right? You did what? You set it equal to the other equation. You didn't really set it equal to the other equation. What you did is you substituted. This is equal to y, that's equal to y. So you take the 4x and you substitute it for the y. So let's do it. We're going to go 4x equals x cubed plus x plus 2. Go ahead, subtract the 4x. And so then I'm going to have 0 equals x cubed minus 3x plus 2. Now, I know you probably haven't done much of this polynomial stuff, okay? But we're actually going to need to find the root here. If you had your calculator, obviously you could just put the two equations into your calculator. You could find out where they crossed. You should be able to do that, okay? If you didn't have your calculator, then you are going to need to know how to do division. Now, if you learned how to do long division, which I believe you do in Algebra 2 most of the time, you can do that. I'm going to do synthetic division, which is very similar to the synthetic substitution that I did before. Okay, remember I did this in that second video, and I put the coefficients. So the coefficients of x cubed is 1. Now, next should be x squared. Since it's not there, I'm going to put a 0 for it. And then the x is negative 3, and then the constant is just 2. All right. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is I already know that it's going to cross here when x equals 1. So I'm going to go ahead and first I'm going to put in 1. Because if I put in the 1, I'm going to bring down the 1. 1 times 1 is 1. 0 plus 1 is 1. 1 times 1 is 1. Negative 3 plus 1 is negative 2. 1 times negative 2 is negative 2. And I get a remainder of 0, which means that, yes, 1 actually did work there. Now, I could do that again, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually write this out. Now, here we had 3 terms, which meant this was the constant, this was x squared, this was x cubed. Now I'm down to 3, which means this one is the constant, that's x, this is x squared. So what I have now is 1x squared plus 1x minus 2. And that I can factor x plus 2, x minus 1, and so x equals 1 and negative 2. Now 1 makes sense because it's a tangent there, which is kind of like that double root where it touches the curve. The other place where it crosses is at x equals negative 2. So right there, the x value is negative 2. How do I get the y value? I plug it into the equation. Now don't be a dimwit. Don't take it and put it into this equation. That I thought that's how I did. Yeah, you could do that, but that's going to be harder. You just wrote an equation right here. Right here, my friends, there's an equation for this line. They're crossing there, which means this has to work in both equations. So put negative 2 in, and you get negative 8. Done. Could you do it in that one? Yes, you could. You could put in the negative 2 cubed, which is negative 8. You could add a negative 2, add a positive 2, and it will still give you negative 8. So I'm sorry if I called you a dimwit. I shouldn't have called you a dimwit. That was not very kind of me. I promise I won't do it again, or I'll try not to do it again. I will never do it in person. In videos, I think it's okay. Anyway, let's go ahead. That's the end of that question. You got negative 2 comma negative 8. And let's move on to our final question.